Hello and welcome to the show. Well, the auction markets around the country are strong despite coronavirus. Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic with me. All the details in just a moment. Outsourcing will dramatically improve your productivity and profitability. Sure Agents have created a staffing solution to provide great staff who can perform duties in property management, sales, marketing and administration, and at a fraction of the cost, giving you and the team more time to spend on the dollar productive tasks. With rising costs and slowing revenue, the focus must be on value for money. Check it out, sureagents.com. Welcome back. As I said at the top of the show, the coronavirus, there may be an impact on the market, but we're certainly not seeing it at this point in time. Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic joins me. Kevin, welcome once again to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Let's bring up firstly the preliminary clearance rates for the last week anyway, and we can see the weighted average at 70.6, Kevin.
Yeah, so still indicative of a seller's market. As you said in the introduction, the preliminary clearance rates are just down a fraction, but nonetheless, if you look in Sydney there at that clearance rate at 74.6% off almost 750 auctions. Still quite a busy auction market and still quite a lot of buyer participation. Melbourne a little bit lower at just over 70%, but they had what many people call a Super Saturday with over 1,000 auctions. So again, pretty strong buyer participation.
Yeah, good result out of Brisbane and just a touch over 50%, 51.7%.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we've mentioned before, Brisbane sort of runs its own race. We shouldn't really compare directly with Sydney and Melbourne. Look, that's a fairly strong preliminary result, and the market does seem to be performing reasonably strongly in Brisbane.
Yeah, we're going to take you through the top sales in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth, and also the ACT in just a moment. Before we do, continuing with our preliminary clearance rates, good results out of Adelaide, Perth, Tasmania and Canberra as well, all doing extremely well.
Yeah, look, I think across the board we've seen fairly strong performance in the first quarter of 2020. It's interesting. I mean, Tasmania has actually seen quite a few auctions this week, normally in sort of single digits. But I mean, Tasmania had 12 auctions this week, which for that stage is really quite busy.
Okay, well, just before we take you to the Sydney sub-regions, just a summary for you. Weighted average of 70.6%, total of 2,220 auctions, and CoreLogic assembling results on 1,609 of those. So a pretty good result overall, 70.6. Let's go to the Sydney sub-regions. What are the highlights there for you, Matt? I guess you'd go straight to Northern Beaches, would you?
Northern Beaches has got the highest, and in fact, we've seen some really strong individual results from their 71 auctions over the week. I was just going to say, Ryde, we've seen have a little bit more volatility over the last few weeks, but it does seem to have returned to form with a result over 80%. And then perhaps a couple of surprises in Blacktown and Parramatta.
Yeah.
Each of them not really big auction markets, but quite often we see those as the lower clearance rates. But this week we've got Blacktown at 83% and Parramatta at 80.6%.
Okay, well, our top sale out of Sydney was in fact an apartment at 2/6 Cliff Street, Milsons, $0.8 million. Before we take you inside, that sold by Di Jones, Nigel and Hayden. Milsons Point, wow. You'll see the photos in just a moment, but that's a great spot, Kevin.
Oh, look, it is. And this is the second highest sale that we've had from Milsons Point. This particular location, I mean, it doesn't look out towards the Sydney Harbour Bridge, but it looks over Lavender Bay, which is an absolutely beautiful bay. This is clearly a very premium penthouse style apartment, built to take advantage of those views. And we've actually seen Milsons Point have a really strong performance. We've seen markets soften, obviously, through 2018, but Milsons Point does seem to have an enduring appeal. This property was actually purchased, I think, new in 2002. And we've seen the unit market perform well because of population increase mainly. So 8% population increase over the last 5 years.
Okay, well, you can see inside there's truly a spectacular apartment. Once again, selling for $8 million. Di Jones, Nigel and Hayden, congratulations on that sale. 2/6 Cliff Street at Milsons Point. Let's have a look at Melbourne now, the sub-regions there. The standouts for you, Kevin?
Inner South, over 80%, and one of the busiest sub-regions in Melbourne, with 186 auctions over the last week, with 135 results in. Next would be the Outer East. We've seen the Outer East perform pretty consistently over the last few weeks. Not the busiest auction market with 75 auctions, but that clearance rate at almost 76% is really firm. We've mentioned the Mornington Peninsula a few times because of the variety of housing stock in that region and the relatively low number of auctions. A bit of volatility in the results, but pleasing to see a strong result this week at 73.3%.
Top Melbourne sale was 22 Epping Street, Melbourne East, 3,820,000 sold by Marshall White, James and Ray Tomlinson, and Fiona Ansell Jones. Lovely. This is a very well preserved Edwardian property, Kevin.
Oh, look, it's absolutely stunning with some sensational period features, and the stained glass looks really fabulous in the pictures. Look, we've had highest sales out of Malvern and Melbourne East over the last few weeks. This is a pocket which is highly sought after. About 12 kilometres to the southeast of Melbourne. This property last sold in May 2010 for $2.335 million. So you can see there's been a fair bit of growth there. We mentioned about how tightly held some of these areas are. This is at the upper end of the average length of ownership at 14 and a half years. So once people move in here, they hang on to their property. We've also seen population growth in this area, and the median house price is currently sitting at 1.8 million. And this area did remain relatively firm when we saw some of those price falls in 2018.
Yeah, spectacular home. That 22 Epping Street, Melbourne East sold for $3,820,000 by Marshall White. Let's go to Queensland now. And we've visited Ashgrove on a number of occasions. This property, so typical of an Ashgrovian, and having lived in Ashgrove and an Ashgrovian myself, I can say this one's been very tastefully updated, but has kept so much of the character inside it, Kevin. Sold for $1,430,000 by Ray White Ashgrove. Amy and Bridget, congratulations on this sale. But a wonderful example of the sorts of homes you can get in that area, Kevin.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is the second home we've talked about the period features. It really does have tremendous market appeal. And also Ashgrove, I mean, it's only about 5 kilometres to the sort of northeast of Brisbane city centre. We've seen through a variety of different market conditions a steadily rising median house price up to about $980,000 at the moment. And that has risen steadily over the last few years. So an area that's very much in demand, and once again tightly held, with the average length of ownership at 12.3 years.
Yeah, we've renovated an Ashgrovian, as I mentioned earlier, and they're just so forgiving. They're such wonderful properties, and that the fact that there's so much timber, as you can see from the photographs of this property. So they're a wonderful property to renovate. Let's go to the ACT now, and our top sale there on the weekend, 12 Barwell Place at Curtin, $1,117,000. Heyman Partners, Brett Heyman and Martin selling this one. What do you make of this one? And tell me a little bit about Curtin.
Yeah, so Curtin's a sort of inner suburb. It's about 5 kilometres to the southwest of Parliament House, and we have seen some highest sales out of the ACT in this locality. This property is interesting to note. Last sold in August 2018 for $1.075 million. So you can see there's been a bit of growth just over the last couple of years there. The median price has been relatively stable in Curtin at about $900,000. And the average length of ownership, again, 12 and a half years. So this is one of those sort of inner suburbs in Canberra that is fairly tightly held.
Mm. Okay, that's our top sale out of Canberra, 12 Barwell Place at Curtin. Let's take you to South Australia now. 19 Bickford Terrace at Somerton Park. You'll have to tell me a little bit about Somerton Park, but I gather from what I've read here that this is a fairly long-established suburb. Would I be correct in saying that?
Yes, absolutely. So Somerton Park extends right the way down to the beach. So it's a suburb. We have reported on the highest sale in Adelaide coming from Somerton Park on previous occasions. It is an area that is always popular, and this house in particular is just meters away from the Esplanade and the beach. It's about 15 kilometres southwest of Adelaide. Average length of ownership about 10 years. Median price $940,000, which has actually been increasing steadily over the last few years. So the Adelaide market generally known for being really quite stable. We haven't seen a lot of capital growth across the market in totality, but there are pockets, and Somerton Park would be one of them, where there has been steady demand.
Yeah, well, Simon and Michael from Harris selling this one for $1,690,000. And just before we leave this property, Kevin, I wanted to mention something that Simon and Michael detailed in their commentary about the place, which I thought was just wonderful. You know, from here you can hear the sea, smell the ocean, and know that a swim is only minutes away. That sort of says it all, doesn't it?
Oh, look, it does. It really is very close to the Esplanade. So.
Okay, we'll go to WA now and our final look at top sales around the country. And this one, I believe it sold prior to auction, $1,820,000. Here Properties, Rob Edwards sold this property, 24 Clark Street, Nedlands. I don't know anything about Nedlands, but I, in reading the commentary that Rob has put together, he talks about a newly gazetted City of Nedlands town planning scheme, which probably could offer some great potential for this property, Kevin.
Oh, look, it certainly could. I mean, the location is fantastic. Nedlands is probably only about 4 or 5 kilometres to the west of the city centre of Perth. And this property is within walking distance of Kings Park and the Botanic Gardens, and also the riverfront. It is an area which, as is common with some of the properties we're talking about, it has had continued appeal. In Perth, obviously, we've seen the market really quite soft for the last 6 or 7 years. But Nedlands has actually performed reasonably well through that period with a median price of $1.6 million. And it's been fairly stable, even though we've seen some significant falls across the market as a whole. The population's relatively stable. And, you know, in Perth, that's an indicator, because we've spoken about properties before where we've actually seen a reduction in population, which is an indicator also of that softer market. So look, this location is pretty strong and has remained so. It's really close in to the city, and there's some fantastic houses there. Median price at $1.6 million gives you an idea of how good some of the houses are in this location.
Absolutely. Well, that's our peek inside all the top sales around the country. Before we leave you, just bringing up our preliminary clearance rates once again on the screen. Sydney 74.6%, Melbourne 70.1%, Brisbane 51.7%, Adelaide 68.4%, Perth 57.1%, Tasmania 83.3%, off a low number, but still great to see Tasmania with some results, and Canberra 69.4%, giving us a weighted national average of 70.6%. So we'll see what the weeks ahead bring us. The coronavirus sort of unravelling, and we don't quite know what's ahead of us, but certainly consumer confidence for the time being, you'd have to say, is still very, very encouraging. Kevin Brogan, thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to talking to you on Friday when we'll have a look at the week ahead. Thanks for your time, Kevin.
No worries. Thanks a lot, Kevin.